Hello, Internet, and all our devoted, die-hard watchers and listeners here at the Faculty Hour. My name is Ryan Beil, and welcome back to another edition of said show. I'm here. We have a guest waiting in the wings who we'll meet soon enough. One of the illustrious members of the Blind Tiger Comedy faculty is here to shoot the proverbial shit with us, and us being myself and my plucky sound person, Peter Carlone.
Hello.
Peter, how are you?
I'm doing good.
I guess you're more than a sound person. You do technical things as well.
I've decided to just go down to sound person.
Oh, I'm
just going to be a sound person from now on. I like
good.
it. It's nice.
That's probably good for our numbers, the overall profit numbers of our show. Speaking of which, this show is on thin ice, so we're looking for a sponsor. We need a sponsor, or this show might not be around for very much. So if you know a company that's looking to throw some money at something that's not going to be a very good investment for them, but they just kind of like got some money to throw around, get at us, facultyhour@gmail.com. That's not our email address, but I'll try to set it up later today. Peter, you said you made a lunch earlier?
Made a lunch. What do the Italians call it? Like a Sunday sauce, but we did it on Saturday.
Oh, okay. I don't know this. Are you
But-
Carlone.
Whatever you have in the fridge, you just jam it together. You cook it up.
Like just a pantry surprise.
Yeah, mix it with some tomato sauce. You're good
And
to
what
go.
was it?
Well, today was a sort of a mushroom fry up with some meatballs.
Was it delicious?
Yeah, it was a very hot, heavy summer lunch, though. I don't know if it was
Yeah.
right for the mood.
Yeah, sticks right to the bones.
Yeah.
Going
Hey,
to
Robin C
27.
is suggesting A&W as a possible sponsor.
Oh, I'll look into it. Yes, the company that's fired me twice. But I'll see. I'll look into that. That's a very good suggestion. They have let me go twice, but I'll ask them. Sometimes I like to bother them on Twitter. And also, brings up a good point. Peter is here also to facilitate any questions you have to me, to my guest in general, philosophical questions, anything you want to think. Fire them in there, and Peter will make sure they get to us. Okay, and so I've said us a few times. It's time to meet our guest du jour. That means of the day, of today. Please welcome founding member of Blind Tiger Comedy. Also, you might know him from Hip Bang, Vancouver Theatre Sports League, maybe on the television. He's a working actor. What else does he do? We'll find out. It's Devin McKenzie.
Wee, 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 wee.
Hey, everybody. Here I am. I was just in the wings, and whoa, boy, it's hot. It's hot in that wing.
Have you strained your neck?
No. What I've done is I've found a sponsor for the show. It's an ice pack.
Oh.
So if Rapid Relief is listening, I think they would make a great sponsor. You know, because as you said, the show is on ice. And what a tagline.
That's a great tagline. The show is on ice, sponsored by an ice company. You've done that because you're very hot, temperature-wise.
It is stifling hot in my apartment right now, and I've sort of sequestered myself into this bedroom, and it's bad.
This is going to be a trial of strength for you to get through this faculty hour today. But God bless you. Godspeed, Devin.
Yes.
And how are you doing in general besides the heat in this crazy time of quarantine? Is life okay? You're doing all right?
Yeah, I think life is pretty good. I'm generally an introverted person, so it hasn't been too tough on me. My partner is a healthcare worker on the front line, so we've really had to like tighten up the way we live our life. But yeah, so highs and lows, stresses, and nice relaxing moments as well.
Oh my goodness! Well, I'm glad to hear you're both doing okay. And what are some of the what are the things like? Are you like disinfecting everything when she comes home? Like boom into like a basket?
Yeah, exactly. All into a plastic bag, into a basket, shower, Lysol wiping everything that gets touched. And, I've been doing all the grocery shopping and all that. So, yeah, but otherwise pretty normal. It's fine.
Yeah. And you're teaching classes. How's that going? Online class teaching?
That has been a remarkable victory and
Isn't
a joy.
it?
Yeah, it's surprisingly good. Was very skeptical, I have to be honest. When we first started, I was like, I don't think I'm gonna like this, but
oh, me too. And I was kind of honest when I first, like the first class I taught, like I don't know where this is going. We're gonna see what happens. But I think if everyone's on board, everyone's on board, and you can get things done. And it's remarkable how improv can exist.
That's exactly it. And some of the Intro 1 classes, it's just like I think I'm making this weird by being like, this isn't how we usually do it. And they're just like, whatever, we're doing it. Like, we're being goofy in our apartments, like totally on our own. And
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that is normal.
Totally. And just as I've said to many of our other guests, some sense of structure, something to like put into your week, I think has also been very advantageous for me and my mental health.
Yeah.
Well, that's a nice check-in, Devin. Before we get to our fun questions, we usually do like a bit of a deeper dive into the faculty member's bio. Not too deep, but just sort of like a little bit so people can get to know you, where are you from, how you found comedy. So where are you from, Devin? Where were you born and where were you raised? What's this Devin McKenzie story?
I was born in Brisbane, Australia. I lived there for 3 years.
Wow.
I was there because my dad is an architect and he was working on Expo. So he was helping kind of work on the Canadian pavilion for Expo.
Cool.
And then from there, we moved to Sevilla, Spain. Am I blowing your mind? I feel like you weren't expecting this crazy answer.
I mean, when the Brisbane thing was said, I was like, oh yeah, okay, I think that I might have heard that.
Yeah.
But now the Spain Perry here. It's really blown my mind. Okay.
Yeah. So moved to Spain, and that's because that's where Expo moved to after Brisbane. So Brisbane was 88, and then Expo,
you were an Expo brat, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And what's funny about that too is I was born in Australia, but my parents are Canadian, so my citizenship, they had to apply for it, and it didn't come through right away.
Yeah.
So technically, I was legally deemed an alien for the first 2 weeks of my life.
Wow.
Not an illegal alien. I wasn't illegal.
Yeah.
I was just.
You belong to no country.
Yeah. I belong to the universe.
Born at sea.
So yeah, I've kept that close to my heart ever since, and I feel strongly about being an alien.
Yeah, you were an alien from the get-go before it was cool.
Yeah.
And so after Spain, where did you go? Did you?
Well, yeah. So Spain, I lived there till I was about 7 years old. We lived in the south of France for a little bit too, and I was a little like blonde Sevillano boy, kind of speaking Spanish fluently.
Wow.
And then I moved to Canada to North Vancouver. And I told my parents I'm not speaking Spanish anymore because nobody else does.
Right.
And so I just somehow just like forced an entire language out of my head. I can't speak any of it anymore.
Oh man, you must regret that decision, that little decision.
I do, my little stupid brain, little childish idiot.
You had it.
I had it. I was like fluent. I've watched video of myself as a kid, and I just see myself blathering away, and I have no idea what I'm saying. That is a trippy experience.
Wild. That's so trippy. The mind is crazy. That's so nuts that you're like, yeah, that's me, but I have no recollection of that.
Yeah.
And you're like, da 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 da. Wow, beautiful. Okay, and so then, you're in North Vancouver there. So how did you find your way to comedy, improv comedy, your sketch comedy, and all that? How did that? Was that always in your life, or did that happen at some point? Or
yeah, well, I lived in North Van for only about 2 years. I went to Queensbury Elementary School, and then I don't know, shout out Queensbury, I guess.
Queensbury,
yeah. And then I moved to the Okanagan, to a really small town called Naramata.
Right.
And that's where I'm an only child, and we lived way out in the boonies, so like no neighbors for kilometers. So I was really like very introverted, very like taking care of myself and taking care of my own entertainment. So basically I just like grabbed a video camera one day and started creating a show called The Devin Show, which was just me pointing the camera at myself for hours. like I've got a shoebox full of tapes of The Devin Show, just hours and hours of footage of me just filming myself, talking to the toilet, talking to the fridge, like doing my little sketches. Yeah.
You gotta release some episodes.
So I found out that the library has this like digital media kind of lab where you can go in and you can transfer all these tapes to a hard drive. The only thing is it's like it takes the amount of time that the tape is. So if you have an hour tape, it takes an hour. So that's a big commitment.
That's a huge commitment.
Yeah, but I think I will do that one day.
I think there's something there too, especially with some modern commentary. Like, you know what I mean? Like you sort of like giving some backstory, what's going on here, like director's cut, basically.
Oh, for sure. Well, I'm not just gonna let it roll. It doesn't sustain itself.
Okay, cool. And so that was like your first foray into like performing and comedy and being funny and stuff like that, and that led to other things.
Yeah. Then I went to I went to Penn High, Penticton Secondary, and
Penticton Secondary.
What's up? Go Lakers.
Yeah.
All right. I really didn't feel that strongly about it. I felt a little bit like an outcast at that school for sure. It was very like conservative small town. And yeah, I was a weirdo. And I was very self-conscious and awkward, but I met some good friends, and then that was just this sweet spot in that history where Penn High actually got to participate in the Canadian Improv Games. So they had a regional in the Okanagan Valley for maybe 2 or 3 years. And I was just lucky enough to kind of slide in there, get into the regionals, get on a team, and then we got to go to nationals. And then that just like, man, for any CIG kids out there, if you've been there, you know what that's like. It's just it's a mind-blowing, life-changing experience. So
it really is. And expand it because you're amongst so many other like-minded sort of improv weirdos. You know what I mean? Like that's what it was for me.
Yeah.
Just like we got our, I think it's a common sort of theme. I don't know how it went for you, but like we got our butts handed to us when we went out to compete. Like, but it was like the experience being around like that many. It definitely put some wind in my sails.
It felt like an awakening in terms of just everything, like every aspect of my life, like creatively and like, you know, just, oh, there's actually girls here I'm attracted to. And like, it's just like everything was so different than Penticton for me. So yeah, Beautiful. It was good. Yeah.
And then you met Tom Hill in university. Is that correct?
Yeah. I went to UBC in 2005 and,
first time I saw you, you were in a group called Parliament of Owls.
Yeah.
And your long hair.
Oh, yeah. Hair down past the shoulders.
Yeah, baby.
Hemp choker just glued to my neck with sweat and wooden beads. Nasty, nasty stuff. Yeah, and I was longboarding. Yeah, I was a real cool dude.
The coolest of the cool.
Yeah, pretty cool. But yeah, Parliament of Owls was awesome. That was with Alex Hudson and Raheem. Mm-hmm. And then we also had a group called, I think it was just Alex and I maybe, which was Homunculus Liberation Front. You know what a homunculus is?
No, I don't. I actually don't. Is it something large? A homunculus?
Homunculus was a theory that inside a sperm was a fully formed little baby person. And like brutal theory.
Yeah, sure.
Very, very old fashioned, but
not true at all.
No, don't believe this. Don't advocate this at all. But
yes,
that's what a homunculus is. So
okay,
really stupid things. So we were the Liberation Front.
You know, improv team names. There's like, I mean, that's a show right there. Just discussing like improv team names we've been a part of, we've heard, we've thought of. You know,
not to mention the photos of these groups.
Oh, and the photos, which I've been featured on. Like I've been made fun of and featured on a website. The game was the Sunday service was featured on that site that was like, is this a ska band or an improv group? It was so embarrassing.
If you were in a ska band, what instrument would you play, right?
Trumpet for sure.
Yeah. What else is there in a ska band?
Yeah, I guess you could throw a trombone in there a little bit, and then like some like dude in the front in a suit.
Yeah, doing that. Yeah, that is the move, isn't it?
Yeah, doing kind of this, just aggressively, kind of like doing the bushwhacker thing. Okay, cool. Well, and then like you've never looked back. You're a comedian. You found comedy. You found people to do comedy with. You're a sketch comedian and an improv comedian. What's your relationship between those two? Like, do you have a favorite? Does it feel different? Or the same thing to you? Like, what's up with that?
They both scratch a different itch, I think.
Yeah.
You know, it's really nice to be able to show up to a show and just, you know, it's kind of the brain dump cathartic release of like improv, and it really is. It brings me a lot of joy. That's one thing I found during this whole pandemic thing, is that I was missing that, and I got pretty unhappy. And I was like, oh yeah, I do like 4 or 5 shows a week. Like, of course, something feels missing. So I love that aspect of improv, that it's just there, it's immediate, it's fun. It just scratches that kind of creative need. But then sketch and like the work that Tom and I do with our full length sketch shows, that's a labor of love. There's so much work that goes into it. And that's a different process. It's really nice to be thoughtful about your work, you know? because sometimes with improv it just comes out as like, that was kind of lame, or like
and it's hard to talk about sometimes because it's like, what are you talking about? You'll never do that again. You know what I mean? Like as far as notes or like being thoughtful, like you say, or building on something. Like, yes, you can
Yeah.
like talk about it, but like it just may never happen that way ever again. Like,
oh man, the variables are out of this world.
yeah,
with
out of this
improv.
world.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah, you
hard to,
gotta you gotta think more about just like form and just kind of structure to
Mhm.
moves with improv. But with sketch, you can really hone your material, which I love.
yeah.
I'll never
yeah.
forget going to this a lecture from one of my, well, he was one of my favorite filmmakers. His name's Robert Lepage. He's also an amazing like theater creator.
Yes.
And I was so stoked to go to this lecture, and I had seen his film. I think it's called Impossible Worlds, and I was like, "This is the best film I've ever seen. I adore this guy." Go to this lecture, and he just rips apart film and rips apart sketch and written work like crazy, as opposed to theater. Because he, as he put it, he's like, in theater you can do a performance and you can then adjust. You're always adjusting. You're always polishing. Versus when you actually film something, it's just cut, it's out, and you can never adjust it again. And he really didn't like that. And that was kind of interesting to me. So like I've been finding that balance with sketch and written work. It's like it's nice when it's live that you can always adjust it, but with some of the stuff we've done, like Pitchmen, for example, on YouTube, you know, it's like there's so much I see there where I'm like, I wish we could have just had one more pass there to kind of figure that out.
Just to refine it a bit more.
Yeah.
And Lepage, yeah, he's problematic for many different reasons.
Yes.
But
that's why
amazing creator, but like like when you get down to the nitty-gritty,
I know that's why
philosophically.
Yeah, when I started bringing it up, I'm like,
oh
fuck, yeah, he's no
I remember
good.
being in theater school and all we just but that was it, right? That was like that's the goal, like what he was doing, like on stage and stuff. So
yeah.
People disappoint you. They disappoint you. Basically, the longer people live, the more opportunity they have to disappoint you.
Totally.
Okay, cool. That's a nice bio. Like anything else you want to say about our deep dive into your bio? Not that deep. We sort of heard where you come from. You moved around a lot, how you kind of got into it, your sort of relationship with improv and sketch. Anything else?
I don't know. I mean, I've been lucky enough to write for a few radio shows. Like getting to actually write for a show is a whole different experience, and it's very cool.
Totally.
So I was a writer for the Irrelevant show for many years, and it's kind of like your run-of-the-mill basic Canadian sketch comedy show. But at the same time, I was able to learn so much about just like how do you pitch things, how do you write things, how do you edit things, and so yeah, that was a really positive experience, I thought.
That's so awesome. And it's gone now. It's done. The irrelevant show. Like it's no more.
It's no longer relevant.
Hey. Yes. That's why you're on the payroll.
Yeah. No, it's gone.
But that's the comedian's dream, right? To be hired to do comedy as opposed to like we all kind of make it work for ourselves, and that feels good too. But to like, you know, to be hired to be a comedian is sort of the dream for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And you get that with commercials too. Like you called me a working actor. I basically just do commercials, but like even having a bit of leeway on a commercial shoot to like do your thing and to bring some content and stuff that's something I feel like we've all earned. And it's nice. It feels good.
It is nice. Those curling commercials. You might recognize them from those funny curling commercials.
Yeah, I got a lot of free reign in those commercials, which was awesome. They just trusted me and was like, all right.
And like, why wouldn't you? Like, you've hired someone to be funny. Let them give you a few ideas here, and then you just go with the best one. Okay, well, let's move on to some fun stuff. That was very earnest. Hey everyone, that was good. We did some earnest talking there. We got into some stuff, and as you know, in faculty, I would like to then break up the earnest talking with some just fun kind of BS off the internet. So do we want Devin, do you want to do a riddle or a fun conversation starter question?
Riddle.
Do you want to do a child's riddle or a hard riddle?
Maybe start with a child's riddle.
Okay, we'll do 37 best riddles for kids that aren't too confusing. That's what this was.
Pressure's on.
Okay. So, okay. What is full of holes but still holds water?
A sponge.
That's right. Okay. How many letters are there in the English alphabet?
That's a riddle?
Somehow. Oh, I see what they want you to like the words English alphabet.
Oh,
that's kind of a curveball for a kid.
Yeah, that's like throwing a ball for a dog, but you don't actually throw it.
Yeah, that's not a kid's riddle. What becomes wetter the more it dries?
What becomes wetter the more it dries?
Yeah.
Oh, ice. That's
I
more
would
like
give
it.
that to you. It's actually a towel. They wanted a towel on this website.
Oh.
When things go wrong, what can you always count on?
State Farm? Is this an ad?
Oh shit! This is sponsored by. All the answers are in fact State Farm for those
Rapid
riddles.
relief.
Your fingers. Your fingers. I am
Ah.
going to give you one of these funny conversation starters because this is like for people that like I don't know how to have a conversation with people, and a lot of them are just terrible questions.
Okay.
Just pick a number between 1 and 97.
Whoa. Gonna go with my childhood sports number 22.
Okay, that's nice. Not a lot of scrolling for me. I'll get there. Here we go. Okay, if you could go back in time and make little changes to your childhood, what is one thing you'd learn and master over the years so you'd be an expert at it today?
I'd probably continue speaking Spanish.
Yeah, we've already talked. We've already discussed that. So I'm just gonna go one up. I'm gonna go to
Okay.
23.
All
If you
right.
could choose to stay a certain age forever, what age would it be?
Okay, so I was notorious as a kid for telling every adult that I met, at least those that like asked me questions,
Yes.
what do you want to be when you grow up? They were always asking me like, what do you want to do? And I would always respond, I don't want to grow up. I want to stay a kid forever. This is the best. And honestly, I was right.
He was so right.
I mean, I don't know if this is like pathetic for me to say, but right around 13 years old was a really good age for me.
Oh, are you kidding? You're so springy. You know what I mean? Like you just got this confidence. Like like you're not too little, you're not too big.
you're kind of getting into like cool like PG rated films, but then you've got that aspect, but then you're also just jumping on your bike and buying 5-cent candies and like
Yeah, you're retaining the childhood element there. You still might go trick or treating. You certainly wouldn't be looked at weirdly. 13, maybe your last year. But also maybe renting a movie with your friends. It's like bad to laugh at it. Like you've got it all.
Yeah,
you had it all.
I love that age, and your parents are like cooking meals for you and stuff, and no responsibility. So
yeah, and you're not in the thick of it yet. Like teenage years, like when you get into the thick of it, obviously it takes quite a turn for most of us. 14, 15, 16, you know what I mean? At least it did for me as far as like just raw emotions.
Yes.
Yeah, and maybe too much arrogance. And
well, for me, that's right when the acne hit, and did I have the worst acne like you've ever seen on any kid.
I was not a sight to be seen in high school for many reasons, but hey, I was beautiful. We're all beautiful. That's the point of this discussion. We're all beautiful.
I honestly think it got me through to like my adult life pretty humble, and like being humble it's good. I think that's a positive for the most part.
It's good to be humble. It's good to not take yourself too seriously, especially if you want to do comedy.
Yes.
You got to roll with the punches. Okay, great. So that was some fun questions. I wanted to do we're going to do our main topic now. Main topic. Do we have a audio hit for main topic, Peter? Specific segments. But that was fun, nonetheless. Thank you, Peter. Our main topic today, we sort of had a little discussion before we went on air, Devin, and I thought it was a good one. You had some suggestions, and I wanted it, especially now, but also beyond the now times being where we're all keeping our distance and at home for the most part and quarantining, but also when that's over or in the before time, staying creative. Sort of, if you're a creative human being, staying creative, staying fresh, keeping yourself on that track, finding new tracks, all that stuff is sort of a general topic, which is large, which I like, and we can sort of just like start anywhere and see where it takes us. But so I just the floor is yours for a second. Then I'll take it right back from you. I didn't mean to say second. We'll start with you, our guest, Devin. So what does that mean to you, or something that makes you think of, or staying creative, or how do you do it, or what do you want to start with that sort of general discussion topic?
Yeah, totally. I think first of all, this is something that I really noticed on fringe tours. So I've toured around and done lots of fringe festivals and things like that. And you tend to see similar people doing shows. and yeah, lots of one-person shows, which are very cool, and interesting storytelling shows, things like that. And I've been kind of, watching students for a long time now, teaching students for a long time, and I think there's kind of become this somewhat unhealthy obsession with focusing strictly on improv as what you're taking in to like then produce good improv. And from what I've seen from fringe festivals and all, and talking to other artists, and what I try to practice as well, is I don't think that's necessarily the healthiest way for us all to be thinking about how do we become really good improvisers, or how do we create good art. Really, what we should be trying to do is like live life experiences and go out and live things and experience things, and then translate that to the stage.
Absolutely.
So whether it's as simple as like going on a walk, and just like observing people around you, keeping some notes about it, or whether it's actually going on a big adventure, or you're traveling to a different country or something like that. That's just something I guess that's my starting point. Absorbing things around you so that you can internalize it and put it out.
Well, 100% too. I mean, like the more my sort of career has become a little bit more focused on writing and creating, the more I realize it's the exact same muscle to in a lot of degrees as improv. And so like, you can only write what you know, and what do you know, right? Like, what do you have to sort of draw on? And I always say that too, like when in improv classes, like people are like, well, what do I say on stage? What do I do? And I like, just chase, what are you interested in? Right? Like, what do you like? Like, do that. Like, and so like the more you can get into that and explore that, like, your likes and dislikes and your experiences, like this, the richer it becomes when you go back on stage.
Yeah, totally. And a like is a really good way to put it, because when I say life experience, that could still be like reading a novel that you
Yes.
love, or watching film and TV. At least then you're interpreting stories and ideas and ways people act and emotions and all that. But I find that like a lot of students are just like, I just watch improv, and it's like, well,
Well,
then I think you're more mimicking or trying to mimic or copy what other improvisers are doing.
you
as
then start to
opposed-
do improv. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
You start to sort of do improv, and there's a lot of things that we all kind of do, but like, what are you gonna like sort of like put into that, as opposed to like, the unique sort of like spin on stuff.
yeah, and I think I was guilty of that when I first started too. I'd watch Sunday service a lot, faithfully. I'd watch all these amazing groups that would come, these festivals. I'd be like, that's really funny, or that mannerism is really funny, or that effect. But then really, once I relaxed, then I was like, no, I'm really interested in like nature. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna play more animals on stage. Or,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I saw a funny character, so a type person, so I'm gonna try to emulate them. And
So are you a type of person that do you write down, like, do you keep a notebook? Like, you're also a sketch comedian, of course, so that probably comes in handy with that. But like, do you have like a notebook on the go to like sort of record those moments, those feelings, those thoughts?
yes, for sure. I've got a notes app that just titled Sketch Ideas, and it's just like a huge document of different things. It can be as simple as like hot dog on sidewalk, or, or it could be something a little more specific.
Yeah.
But I find that I never actually like use that document for any sort of improv related stuff, but I do trust that sort of observation will come out naturally in an improv scene, or that I'll suddenly be like, oh, I'm playing off this thing that I noticed. But it's a lot easier for sketch writing to then go to that enormous list and be like, what do I want? Oh yeah, that person who's holding bread like a baby.
And you've developed a pretty good shorthand with yourself to like actually, because like I've kept notes, and like for a long time, and it's like you do have to develop that language to remind yourself what the friggin' reason why you wrote it down to begin with. Like, you can be very detailed for sure, but then like it's like, well, what is pine cone square? Like, like, yeah, great. Like, I've got all the points, but like, why? Like, so like those little like indicators.
Yeah, it's really helpful too. Like, so same thing. Sometimes I write something down and I think it's the funniest thing in the world, and then I go back and read it. I'm like, not connecting with this at all. Maybe I should pull some up. Should I pull some up?
Sure. Oh, please. I love this.
But let's see. I think I just wrote one down the other day, and I remember looking at it and thinking, this doesn't connect with me. But what I was going to say was, what can be really helpful is a voice memo. So if you just open the voice memo, just like, because then you hear yourself laughing and you kind of hear the intonation, and I don't know. Those sorts of things
That's
are,
really smart. That's really smart. And
yeah.
like it's just easier to like get it across to yourself if you can sort of like really describe what you find. Yeah, like you don't have to do the secondary paperwork of like then transferring it into the written word. It's like get it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know. Yeah, it's just easier often.
So how else right now are you staying creative and staying fresh yourself as an artist and a creator right now beyond sort of like looking for life experiences? Anything you got on the go right now that you might want to talk about?
I am very interested in photography.
Great.
I've kind of gone all in on photography as an interest of mine. I'm really into birds right now, so trying to find birds and take nice photos of them, as well
So
as
that's
identify them.
two kind of hobbies in one. You got to like find the bird watching, and then take the picture, photography.
Yeah, and there's a lot. There's a lot to that. So you have to find their habitats. You got to think about the bird you want to get. You have to try to go to the habitat, and then you have to get a fucking photo of the thing, which is so hard
and so boring, I imagine. Like,
I mean, I find it not boring. I find it like
boring's the wrong word. Laborious.
Yeah.
Like yes, like painstaking.
Yeah, so in a way I find it sort of meditative, like I was really into fishing for a long time, and I'm still into fishing, but it's very hard to get out to go fishing a lot. It's much easier to just grab the camera and walk out the door.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's a lot of
and there's a lot of similarities between fishing and photography, right? Like, because anyone can catch a fish, but there are professional fishermen. You know what I mean? Like, there's some skill to it. But anyone can but you can kind of just grab. You can kind of get the lucky picture or get the lucky shot or whatever like that. It's interesting.
Yeah. I just find that setting up somewhere just like fishing or with a tripod with a camera and just waiting and just being patient with yourself is a really nice way to get to find some relaxation. Again, remember, I grew up in the Okanagan, like in the boonies by myself, so I'm very comfortable with that.
What was the show called again?
What's that? Sorry?
The Devon Hour, the Devon
Show.
The Devon Show. Look for it soon. Producing the Devon Show. So what's the do you have a bragging bird you've been able to photograph that like other birders might be like, oh, that's a tough shot. That's a tough find. Do you have any
no.
Or you still you're on like robins and sparrows and such.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I got a Wilson's warbler the other day.
A warbler.
Yeah, I got a nice warbler.
Yeah.
I also got a great blue heron down near the water and fishing for an eel, and it caught an eel.
Wow.
And then it swallowed the eel like it was a cartoon. It was like gulp. Like, okay,
nature.
Yeah,
we get it.
Pretty thick here, laying it on pretty thick.
That's beautiful. And bird, they're so like all wild animals are hard to track. They're always one step ahead of you. But birds, they have the added element of flying away and not living on the same plane as you. So that's a terribly hard thing to track.
Yeah, they move a lot. They're just moving all the time. Yes, constantly startled.
Oh my I always think like what a living hell it must be to be a squirrel, because even if they're eating, they're just terrified and rightly so. They could get hit by a car. Humans are not their friends. Everything. It just seems terrible, a terrible existence. So
they're the perfect size for like a cat or a dog to try to just murder.
Oh yeah. My dog's version of heaven would be just killing squirrels. I have 2 Scottish Terriers, and they just live for that. And no matter how much training you can do to these dogs, these Scottish Terriers, you can never untrain their vicious bloodlust when they see a squirrel.
Oh, yeah. I grew up with a Cairn Terrier, and the Cairn...
Is that a Toto? Is that Toto from Wizard of Oz?
Exactly. But that Toto was the darker haired one. The Cairn we had was like wheat colored.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, those dogs are trained to go down into rocks, like little rocky nooks, and then flush out badgers and shit like that.
And most terriers were trained to be independent. They were like little Roombas, little farm Roombas, just like set them and just go do your thing. They're like they were favored in their breeding to be independent minded and violent.
Yeah, totally.
Little scrappy guys.
Yeah, real scrappy. Yeah.
Oh,
so this dog Archie, He once treed a bobcat. He chased a bobcat up a tree.
Wow.
He was constantly. One time, my mom heard the dog like yelping, like screaming outside, and she walked outside, and there was a cougar on our front stoop, and Archie's entire head was in the cougar's mouth. Cougar's like, huh? And my mom screamed. The cougar dropped Archie. The cougar had, with its canine tooth, punctured Archie's skull, like into his brain. The cougar runs past my mom. Archie shakes it off, looks at the cougar, and goes, "Rah, rah, rah," and starts chasing the cougar.
No, Archie, no.
No, Archie, your brain is pierced. The only way my mom got Archie back was she quickly started banging his food dish. And Archie was like, food? Fucking Archie.
Dogs are, we don't deserve them. They're just the best little friggin' guys.
Yeah. Archie was fine, by the way, even though his head, his skull broke.
My God. Survived a cougar attack, still wanted to give it to the cougar.
Oh, that was the moment where I'm like, I fucking love this dog. Even though it didn't really love me, it loved my mom, but whatever.
Yeah, it's fine.
It.
You weren't its enemy, but you were his best friend.
Exactly.
Just to bring it before we get off, thank you for the dog diversion, by the way. I'm always up for a dog story. I'm a big dog guy. And speaking of photography, you take pictures of dogs you like, right? You still do that?
I've got an Instagram account called Pooch Dogs where I meet dogs and then I do little write-ups on them. That's probably one of the fun bits. So it's nice. I guess this all ties back to improv in a way that's like, I like having a creative outlet that is not comedic. So just being able to tap into those other areas of creativity, I think creates a more fully fleshed out feeling of like being an artistic or creative person. Yes. And I would strongly encourage everyone who's doing improv to try to find some other ways to think about visual or like framing or storytelling or any sort of other creative outlet that will, honestly, it'll come back to improv in some way, even if you don't know it directly. So that's what I believe.
I think that's a beautiful thing. And I think this tie it back, we sort of talked about like interests, you know what I mean? Like I think sometimes we're bogged down with like how to be creative. There's like 5 ways to be creative. You're writing, you're performing, like human creativity can be put into lots of different sort of like vessels. And so what are you interested in? What do you like? And how are you going to bring that back to comedy? You're going to have so many innumerable funny experiences, like learning something when you suck at something, or like you're getting into something for sure, but just busying your mind, making your mind a bit busy and seeing what that drums up. That's such a good piece of advice.
Yeah, just tune in the instrument, just making sure it's tuned. Just don't just like veg out and turn it off all the time, especially if you're someone who is a performer. You got to keep it tuned up. Also take those breaks. Trust me, I veg out. But
that's
I do
a good point, because I went to theater school, and like as an actor, you're like, keep your instrument, do your warm-ups, work out, like all that stuff, and do mental, and we should do the same for improv. We should keep our sort of instrument fresh, which is like, the creative mind, like that creative pocket in our brain.
Yeah, I feel that way for sure. And it's not, everyone's different. Everyone's got their own thing. Some people can just totally shut off and then just throw it all out for the show. But that's what I've found has been very helpful.
And just to bring it back, I think you said another very very sage piece of advice, a life experience, or like looking into life experience. It doesn't have to be like walking to like South America, like big. It could be like, it could be like going to the park, could be like observing, it could be reading a book, it could be like writing on your own for an hour, like whatever it is, like just like, tune into something, like tap into something for sure.
Music is really cool and inspiring.
Oh, hell yeah.
Music has so many tones and moods to it,
Yeah.
So
you play any music?
No, I was in a band briefly when I was in high school, and then I got kicked out of the band because they said I wasn't taking it seriously enough, and they were all my best friends.
Oh my God, that's so hard.
It was the worst summer of my life.
And were you, like looking back on it, were you taking it seriously in your eyes, or were they being unreasonable?
Listen, I think at the end I won this, because did they go on to do anything? Hell no. They just, if they had just been just having fun, like I just want to have fun, assholes. That was
absolutely like you. It's because like when you form a band, you kind of like get addicted to like, I want to do all the band stuff, like like pretend to be a band as opposed to just having fun and writing music and stuff.
Yeah, and it was what we did when we hung out. We played music, and then I was
It
invited
kicked
to the
you out.
hangout.
What was the name of the band?
It was called Rock Haven. Rock Haven.
Yes.
And it was a play off Rock
Ah.
Oven, which is the rock ovens that the Chinese workers built when they were building the Kettle Valley Railway. So there's
Gotcha.
all these enormous, beautiful rock ovens, these mounds out in the middle of the forest up above
Wow.
Marinata. They're very surreal. And yeah, so it was kind of based off that because we're like rock oven. And like a
Wow.
rock oven sounds like
I
rock
didn't know that
haven.
piece of BC history there. There's all these rock ovens in off in the bush.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Wow.
I think it's cool.
That's very cool. Oh, I
Yeah.
love that. I love hidden history. Okay, great. That was our main topic: staying creative, staying fresh. We also talked about dogs and the band Devin was kicked out of. We made sure to get to that. If in the chat, if you had any questions or comments, even about that concept, those concepts, staying creative, staying fresh, and tapping into stuff. Fire him into the chat. Peter will make sure we get to him. Now I'm going to, I wanted to just do some fun questions. And I wanted to ask you, I know you're a big basketball fan, Devin, right?
Yeah.
I like
Huge.
asking people why do you like basketball? Like, do you have a prepared answer or something you usually say if people say like, why do you like basketball? Because I think this is usually a kind of an interesting sort of way into a discussion. Why do you like basketball so much?
Well, sure. So I like a lot of sport. I grew up watching a lot of hockey and a lot of CFL football. Huge
Hey.
BC Lions fan. Even
Wow,
got to meet
cool.
Louis Pasaglia in the box.
Is he a kicker?
He's the kicker, Lou. That's where everyone started calling Lou for Roberto Luongo at Canucks games. That was actually based off a BC Lions kicker. Yeah, but anyway,
he won us a Grey Cup, didn't he?
Oh yeah, 94, I think, against the Baltimore Stallions. He kicked it with no time left on the clock. Huge. Lou,
and
my man.
mullet and mustache.
Oh yeah, hell yeah. He looked like that pitcher Randy Johnson, sort of thing.
Yes.
Yeah. But anyway, I started watching those kind of sports, and
Cool.
My parents don't like sports at all. It was just very strange that I just really got into it. But then yeah, I really got into basketball around like 2010-ish, 2009-ish. What I like about basketball a lot is you've got all the aspects of like every good sport. You have plays, you're running plays. There's a lot of like thinking behind it, but then you're also demonstrating a lot of skill, individual skill, which I think is really cool. And one of my favorite aspects, and you might relate to this with baseball a little bit, is the fact that they're not just like these homogenous, like, you don't just see football helmet or hockey helmet and pads.
Mhm.
You actually really get to see their individual character.
Yeah.
And you really get to see a bunch of different types of people.
Yeah.
And, a lot of times these athletes are coming from not necessarily places of wealth or, from communities that are like, like hockey players seem to all be just pretty rich to begin with.
You gotta buy a lot of equipment, I think, to play hockey.
Yeah. It's like to become a good basketball player, you got a ball and then you got a hoop, and yeah. So I love the variety in basketball. I think the basketball players are really interesting to me.
Yeah.
And the sport itself is super
It's just
exciting.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And you must be on top of the moon as a diehard Chicago Bulls fan to have The Last Dance right now. That's my like Sunday nights. I do Sunday service, and then like I like make a little food for myself, and I watch those 2 episodes, and it's the best. I even watch like the episode previous, like just to get in the mood. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's beautiful
nice.
right now. What a great documentary.
It's wild. It's really good. It's very interesting.
Was it that version of the Bulls that made you a Chicago Bulls fan?
Not at all, surprisingly enough. Yeah, it was a decision I made more actually when I started touring quite a bit for improv and sketch comedy, and I went to Chicago twice. And then that's when I was getting more interested in basketball. And I was like, I really like I'm really into this idea of supporting a team. Yeah. So like if Vancouver had a team, 100% I would be all in. I would buy season tickets.
Yes.
Like it's game over. But I love the idea of supporting a team, and I like having teams mean something to me. And at that time, Chicago was a really meaningful city because it just felt like I had kind of gotten past the hurdle in my comedy career. And
beautiful.
So I attached that to the Bulls, and the Bulls were exciting at that time, and it's just gone south ever since. So
I love what you say about that. Like that's why sports are, because like it's fun that humans are able to like create meaning, with these it's just a beautiful thing how like you can like decide to care in this, like that's what makes it this beautiful sort of like endeavor, this beautiful sort of human endeavor. Like you like decide to care, and it's this gorgeous thing, which I love about sports. And I had a similar experience. I went to the Chicago Improv Festival. I went to a Cubs game, and I was like, this is it. This is it. Like the similar sort of vibe. Like it was just like
Cool.
be able to attach myself to that like hurdle of getting to Chicago, which was meaningful, and then like seeing like, and I gotta say, Americans really do sports very like they're good at sports. They're
very good at sports. They're good at sports.
They're like, because like in Vancouver, we lose the Stanley Cup. We can't deal with it. We're like, I went to the wild card game 2015 between the Pittsburgh Pirates in Pittsburgh and the Chicago Cubs, and like when they introduced the Pirates, like I had never heard such a deafening like this. At one point, this Chicago Cubs kid came into like the section I was in and waving a flag, just a fun kid. A dad went up to him and yelled at him. A stranger dad was like, "You never come in my section again with that. You get out." It's like, that's the kind of like intensity of sports they have there. But then after when the Pirates lost, they all kind of like were able to let it go. Like it was like super intense. And then like, I think they're better at it than us, at least Vancouver.
Oh, for sure. I mean, there's two things that I connect with what you said there. First of all, like the idea of committing yourself to a team is a huge deal, and it's going to be a rocky road. Like there's no way, like even if you connect to a dynasty, it's like there's still going to be some real low lows. And that I think is just a very human thing, and it's a tough thing for a lot of people to connect or commit. So that's one thing. That's just how I at least kind of justify my intense relationship with the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah.
But then the other thing is like this idea of like pure entertainment and emotion, I think is something that I strive to do with my improv and comedy and performance. Yeah. And that is something just shown on display, the emotion and passion of these athletes, especially when it comes to like playoffs. It's just pure drama. It's pure entertainment. I think it has a lot of ties to what we do as artists.
Completely. I agree.
Yeah. So that's why I love it so much, partly.
Well said. Beautifully said. It's our sports talk. We're gonna go to the chat briefly before we get out of here, Devin. Just some chat questions here. I'm gonna do some rapid fire stuff. Thanks everyone for participating. Chris Benson still wants to know about my fridge. I've already shown that. I'll show another picture again on Sunday. Robin C would love to see some of the apps of the Devin show. That's more of a comment. So someone would like to see the Devin show. What was it like being in the same room as Stone Cold Steve Austin? Nicole Clark would like to know, Devin.
Oh yeah. So I was in
Devin did a commercial.
I was in a commercial for WWE. And it was like their big sort of like, we're back on Fox Sports. Here, this is gonna blow your mind. I was not in the same room as Stone Cold Steve Austin. They shot his half in LA. They shot my half in Vancouver. So I literally looked at a chair with a little X on it. So I never met him.
That's crazy. You don't even think that when you watch that commercial.
Definitely not. Yeah. So
well done.
Sorry.
To you and to everyone involved. That looks great. And to Stone Cold.
I did get to smash a tray full of glasses like 6 times.
Well, that's the moment in the commercial when that character decides to like it's on and you let that tray go. Like that's the funniest part of the whole commercial.
Yeah, thank you.
Nicole wants to know again. Show us a picture of your favorite bird. I don't know if you were able to do that. I don't think we can do that. Do you have one?
No, I can't pull that up this quickly. But,
sorry. What are your favorite improv warm-ups to do on Zoom? Devin, do you have some you like?
I think 7 Things translates to Zoom really well. We've been cutting out the like calling it out and just doing like finger numbers to kind of show support.
Just to get to it. That's cool.
I think that's pretty cool. We've been doing. I created this one. It's sort of like a face pass, but you pass it either up or down, left or right, and then the person receiving it has to take it from that side. So it's just starting to try to understand this medium a little bit, and like, oh yeah, this is what this would look better. You know, if I pass something here, I would receive it like this.
Right.
Little things like that are kind of interesting to adapt exercises. So,
and keep in the back of your head. Favorite book?
I love the book called The Mezzanine. It was written by Nicholson Baker, and it's sort of just an internal monologue of someone as they ride an escalator to work every day. And I think Nicholson Baker is a really fascinating mind and a really brilliant, thoughtful person. He takes a lot of very mundane things and makes them very interesting.
Which is I love. I love taking mundane and making them interesting and absurd and weird. And finally, Tom Hill wants to know, what's the most meaningful kiss you've ever had on stage?
Wow.
It seems like a
There
leading
was-
question there.
I don't think it was with Tom, although he may have been in this group. There was a festival show I did, and at some point in the show, you know, I'm in an ensemble. There's probably like 30 people in the ensemble. And for whatever reason, everyone made a line and every single person on the cast had to kiss me in a row. And I think Lee White was the last one to kiss me. And that kiss was, there was power behind it.
So Lee White of the Crumbs, who's been an artist in residence at Blind Tiger, right? Am I remembering that right? Right?
I think so, yeah.
He did something with us.
Incredible improviser.
Wonderful improviser, something we all look up to. Someone we all look up to in the Canadian, the improv scene in Canada. The Crumbs and Lee White, who now I think lives mostly in Europe. A delightful weirdo and an amazing improviser. So
I bet Tom was fishing for some sort of kiss we've had, I'm sure, but
yeah.
I
he
don't
followed
know.
up and with who he hasn't no follow-ups. Yes, thank you for all the other questions we didn't get to, but we're gonna get out of here. This has been another incredible faculty hour. Come hell or high water, we're gonna be back next week. This show is on thin ice though financially, so again, send us your sponsors. We'll see what happens next week. Tommy Hill just says wow, WOW. Hopefully rapid relief. Devin, thank you so much. And I just want to plug, you have a hip bang show coming up, right, that people can watch?
Yeah, it's on Saturday. I believe it's May 16th this coming week. It's at 7 p.m. It's going to be on YouTube, on our Hip Bang YouTube. So yeah, go check that out. Me and Tom getting back to our roots, doing sort of a long form 45 to 50 minute improv set together. I can't wait.
Beautiful. Tom is still commenting. I think he's mad at you. We'll see how that plays out in your improv show.
Sorry, Tom.
Hour. Thank you, Peter. Do we have the music queued up? Let's dance and get out of here. Peter, are you still there?